Hi, welcome, Krista. Welcome to our community day. I'd like to welcome Krista Q. Hackle from the County of San Mateo, Office of Sustainability, to talk about recycling and food waste prevention. So Krista, the floor is yours. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to see some of your faces. So I'm going to be talking today about recycling and food waste prevention. And so here at the Office of Sustainability, our overall objective is to promote sustainability in the county through the planning, development, and implementation of many different types of programs. So as you can see from the slide, there's the waste reduction group, and that's the group that I'm on. And we help people with figuring out what to do with just about anything that you have. And I'll be talking about some of that as well, but you can always give us a call or email us and I'll give you that information at the end of the presentation. And then we also have the energy and water team and the climate change team and the livable communities team. So we do a lot of different sustainability things in our office. And one of them is the Sustainability Academy, and there's many offerings that you can take advantage of. There's master courses that are intensive courses on resource conservation and compost and solid waste, deconstruction on taking apart homes instead of just demolishing them, and workshops on home composting, fix-it clinics where you can join a class, and if you have something that's broken in your home, electronics or teapots, toasters, just about anything, there's coaches to help you fix them. So those are very fun. And how to install solar panels, growing and using herbs, and textile reuse and repair. And that's just some of the different workshops. They change all the time. So the first dump dates back to 2,500 years ago in Athens, Greece. And original Bay Area garbage men or scavengers came to San Francisco from Italy in the late 19th century. So does anyone here know where does your garbage go if you live in San Mateo County?
No.
San Carlos.
That's good. That's good. But so once your garbage is picked up from the curb, it's taken to San Carlos. If you live in Burlingame down through East Palo Alto, it goes to San Carlos, the transfer station there. And then they combine those truckloads into a transfer truck, and that goes to Mountain Landfill in Half Moon Bay. It's right off of 92. So you can see here on the map. And then you can also see the big scar that it's leaving in the mountains there. And Ox Mountain is owned by Republic Services, and it was started in the 70s, but in 1993, they added a plastic liner and a leachate collection system. And leachate is the water that flows through the landfill like the rain and then is collected. And that gets treated in San Carlos, and it produces 20,000 to 30,000 gallons a day. They did plant 1,700 poplar trees that use the leachate as their water source. And Republic owns 2,700 acres, and 191 of those are permitted to use as landfill. And they have used about 150 so far, leaving about 40 more acres left to use. And they have 27 cells that are completed. And a cell is just a section in the landfill where they start filling up with garbage. And once the cell fills up in about a year, then they can keep filling it till it reaches a certain height, depending on where the cell is located. And there's about 17 years left if they keep filling at the capacity of 3,000 to 3,500 tons per day. So we're running out of room. And then we're gonna need to find another place to put our garbage. And there is an energy collection system there that collects the methane, and it's operated by Ameresco, and they collect enough energy to power more than 11,900 homes in Alameda and Palo Alto. And this is a picture of the transfer truck that comes from San Carlos, or if you're up in the North County, there's Blue Line Transfer Station in South San Francisco. And it just gets dumped in the land here. And here you can see there's lots of cardboard, wood, paper, and other recyclables that don't belong in the landfill. And so once you put something in the garbage, no one separates it for you. It goes straight to the landfill. And you can see all of the seagulls here and birds, and there's just lots of wildlife that are attracted to it. And this is just an example of a cell that they are filling up. They just keep dumping garbage, and then once it gets high enough, then they'll cover it and put soil on top and move to another part of the landfill. So now we're going to talk about how to not send stuff to the landfill and how to reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot, which is compost. And first, I'm going to start with how to reduce. You can buy products with less or no packaging, buy in bulk, buy durable and reusable products, and buy items that are recyclable, buy less toxic products, and rent or borrow instead of buying new, and paper by only printing what you need. One of the best ways to reduce and most impactful is to stop food waste. And we have a campaign going on right now throughout the whole Bay Area. So I'd be interested to know if anyone's actually seen some of our advertising. We have it in newspapers, on billboards, and all over the place. So hopefully you see some of that. But food waste is a big issue. Like 40% of the food in America is wasted. And 25% of the food we each buy never gets eaten, even though we try. And 90% of us throw away food too soon. Each of us tosses nearly 300 pounds of food each year. And an average family of 4 throws out $1,500 of food each year. So you can see by the numbers, 1 in 6 Americans lack food security. So we don't want to be wasting food. And 80% of all the fresh water in the US is consumed by food. And food also uses 10% of America's energy. And California is the biggest producers of almonds and artichokes, olives, garlic, broccoli, strawberries. So when you help reduce and stop food waste, then you're saving energy and you're saving water and you're helping feed other people. So now I'm going to show you some fun videos that we did that will give you some tips on how to reduce food waste.
Spoiler alert, 1 in 4 bags of groceries is thrown away. Using up what we buy can save a family of 4 $1,500 every year. Here are some food storage tips to help. Place ripened avocados and bananas in the fridge. All citrus also. Cut off those potatoes. Store fresh herbs like cut flowers, broccoli too. If you love food but not waste, visit lovefeednotwaste.org for more storage tips just like these.
And could you all see and hear that okay?
Yes.
No, the audio is very bad.
Oh, it is?
The audio is very bad.
Huh. Interesting. I wonder if there's...
You know what he said?
Let's see if there's some setting. Let's see. I don't know if Tina has a setting for audio that would help that, because I have several videos that I wanted to show.
No, you have to control it with yours, unless you sent me the link.
Okay. Well, let me try another one and see how that goes.
Okay.
So this is about testing eggs. I have 3 rescued chickens and they're very cute and they tend to eat their own eggs, but if not, then I give them to neighbors. And sometimes they've been sitting around for a while, so I've been telling my neighbors these tricks.
Are your eggs fresh and safe to eat? You can't always tell. Some eggs hide it better than others. Place eggs in a bowl full of water to test them for freshness. The eggs that sink or stay at the bottom of the bowl are fresh and good to eat. The eggs that float to the top should be discarded. If you love food but not waste, visit lovefoodnotwaste.org for more tips and tricks just like this.
I didn't know that. So eggs that float are the bad one.
Yeah. Good, you learned something. How was that quality? Was it any better?
Yes.
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 Oh, good.
Much
Okay.
better. Thank you.
Oh, good. I didn't do anything, so it's magic. Okay, so this one is going to be on potatoes.
I know you should eat your veggies, but do you know how to store them? Proper food storage not only saves you money, it also reduces food waste. For example, potatoes, stored correctly, can keep fresh for months. Simply place them in an open paper bag. Place the bag in a cool, dark, and dry place, but never in the refrigerator. And never, ever store them next to onions. If you love food but not waste, visit lovefoodnotwaste.org for more tips like this.
Uh-oh, I've been storing in a refrigerator for sure.
Why not in the refrigerator?
I know.
I'm not sure why, but it's because I used to store mine next to my onions in a bowl on my counter. And so I just started putting them in a paper bag underneath my kitchen table. So I just checked on them. They've been there for a couple weeks because I forget about them now that they're down there and not on my counter. And they still look the same. So it's working. I just need to remember about them.
I missed the point. Is it with or without onions?
Without.
Without, thank you.
Yep. And this one is on wilted greens. We know how that gets. It's kind of like, you know, because I grow a lot of greens in my garden and they start to look wilty, so you give them water. So this is kind of the same concept.
Do wilted greens have you down? Don't throw them out, throw them in water. Add ice and let them soak for 5 minutes until firm. Now that's a tasty and healthy way to fight food waste. Eat immediately or dry them off before putting them back in the fridge. If you love food but not waste, visit lovefoodnotwaste.org for more tips like this.
One of the things I've been doing, if I do buy a head of lettuce at the store, or if I do harvest some from my garden and I'm not going to eat it right away, I've been storing it in like a glass Tupperware type container with the lid on. And it tends to keep a lot longer. I'm not sure why, but that tends to work for me. And this one is on berries. And I've been doing this for a couple years now, and I have fresh berries for a long time.
Keeping berries fresh for long can be a challenge. They spoil so easily. Here's the very best way to store this fruit and fight food waste. Soak the fruit in 1 part vinegar and 3 parts water for 5 minutes. Dry them completely before storing them in the fridge. Stored this way, berries will keep for weeks. Simply rinse them off with water before eating. If you love food but not waste, visit lovefoodnotwaste.org for more tips like this.
And so when you put them in a container in the fridge, I put a layer of paper towels in between each layer. And that just helps soak up the moisture. And then you don't get the rotted berries. You can have them fresh.
I couldn't write fast enough. What was the ratio of water to vinegar?
It was 1 part vinegar to 3 parts water. And this is bananas.
Getting bananas to the perfect ripeness is tricky. They look great at first, but then change before your very eyes. Storing bananas properly saves you money and reduces food waste. Simply wrap the individual stems with foil. Once ripened, place them in the fridge. The peel may brown, but the fruit remains ripe. Want your bananas to ripen faster? Store them in a closed paper bag. If you love food but not waste, visit lovefoodnotwaste.org for more tips just like this.
I tend to make banana bread or banana pancakes, and I'll make them in bulk. So I'll make like 2 or 3 batches of pancakes, and then I'll put them in the freezer and then pop them in the toaster when I'm ready. And or you can, if they're starting to, you know, go a little bit bad and you're like, I hate to waste these, then you can cut them up and put them in the freezer and make margaritas or smoothies.
So I've heard using plastic wrap to keep bananas ripe. Are they suggesting foil just to reduce the usage of plastic?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep. And you know, when you buy them at the store, they usually have the plastic wrap on. And it's actually really hard to get off to separate for composting. But yeah, we switched it to foil because at least you can recycle the foil after. And this is the last video on avocados, which is one of my favorites.
Do your avocados end up being more of an avocado? Nope. Maybe you're storing them wrong. Place underripe avocados on the counter for up to 5 days, but keep an eye on them. Once ripened, they'll stay fresh for a few days in the fridge. Place cut avocados in an airtight container with a cut up onion. The sulfur that makes you cry when chopping them is also a natural preservative. If you love food but not waste, visit lovefoodnotwaste.org for more tips just like this.
So, you know, since the pandemic and I haven't really been going over to work, I've been going grocery shopping like once a month because it's a half hour each way for me. And but buying avocados, it's like, you know, you get home and then for a couple days, they're great. And then it's like they all go bad. And so I've been doing this and it really does work. I haven't actually been putting the onion in with it. But I've even forgotten about a couple of avocados in the fridge, and then I go to get them and they're still perfect. It's amazing. So I highly recommend that. And so it's interesting with potatoes, you don't want to put them next to onions, but avocados you do. So just try to remember that. And then I think these are some really cool tips. I'm a gardener. And so with the bottom of the onion, you know, you always cut it off anyway, or I do. And so you can just put it in the soil and keep the soil moist. And then there should be, I haven't tried it yet, but there should be little onion plants growing, and then you separate those and plant those. And if you cut the leaves down, that will promote more growth. And with garlic, you can plant the clove, and the bigger the clove, the bigger the bulb. And within a few months, you should have garlic. And mushrooms, you can plant the mushroom stalk in soil, and then it's supposed to just make mushrooms pretty quickly. And then you can just keep repeating that. I don't eat mushrooms, so, but they'd be fun to see grow. So that kind of wraps up my reducing. I don't know if anybody has any questions so far or anything, and you can interrupt me anytime.
What was that? The love food but not waste. Was that a website?
Yes, it is. lovefoodnotwaste.org.
I have a question about plastic packaging. I know that when you look at some of them, it has a triangle and a number inside the triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a better, are there some numbers that are better for recycling, or you know what I'm trying to say? I know sometimes it says, isn't it like a 1 is supposed to be difficult to recycle, or a 5 is better?
Yeah, so I will be getting into recycling, but I'm happy to address that now. So yes, there are the numbers on the bottoms, and that determines the type of plastic. So 1s and 2s have the best markets for them, meaning companies will be able to buy those easily and turn them into other recycled products. And we even have companies here in California that recycle the 1s and 2s. And those are polyethylene. And then when you get into number 3, you don't want to buy that. That's polyvinyl chloride, and that's the most toxic plastic. Just remember, bad news comes in 3s. And then number 4 is the low density polyethylene. And so that's the plastic film, like the plastic grocery bags and stretchy film. And then number 5 is polypropylene. And that's a pretty good plastic. It's food stable. That is harder to recycle though, meaning it's harder to find a company that will buy it and turn it into a product. Number 6, that is polystyrene, and you should try to avoid that as well. That has like benzene and styrene in it, and that's what like a lot of the clamshells come in. And you know, so for number 3 and number 6, the polyvinyl chloride and the polystyrene, those can also be toxic to recycle because they put off toxic fumes. So it's best to try to avoid buying those in the first place. And then number 7, that's other. So you don't really know what that is. And that one is really hard to recycle because that doesn't have as many markets. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So now I'm going to talk about reusing. So you can reuse like water bottles, coffee cups, and then straws. We got these wonderful straws for the office to give out, and then plates and utensils and pens and pencils. These pens, they're made out of recycled plastic bottles and they're refillable. And you always bring a cloth bag for shopping. And I've actually made a lot of bags out of old sheets and towels, and I've made produce bags as well. And then you just wash them. And lunch bags for school and work, and paper by printing double-sided or using the backside for scratch paper, and clothing and other items from a thrift store, and propane containers. I love these. These just came out a few years ago. So if you go camping, or if you're like me and you have a lot of power safety shutoffs, I'll use my little Coleman stove because I don't have gas to cook on. And so you can get these refilled. A lot of times places will sell them empty, so you will need to get them filled, but Sports Basement in Redwood City and other sports basements, they refill them for free if you're a Basementier member. And then nursery pots, the black nursery pots, where you bought the plants from, most of them will take nursery pots back, typically 1 gallon and over. And then there's places like Goodwill, Salvation Army, Savers, St. Vincent de Paul, and you can donate and shop. And there's electronics, like TVs. Typically, they'll just take flat screen TVs, and household goods like dishes and utensils, and clothing. And this is a short video that I want to show you on deconstruction, one of my favorite forms of reuse. And this is of a training that we did.
I'm Krista, and I'm with the County of San Mateo Office of Sustainability on the waste reduction team. And one of the things that we do is we help people with their construction and demolition projects. We help them figure out where and how they can recycle and reuse as much as possible from the projects. So we decided to offer a deconstruction training for the public and to teach them about deconstructing a house and taking it apart board by board and piece by piece instead of just taking a bulldozer to it and turning it into mulch or biofuel.
Hi, I'm Ted Reif, president and founder of the Reuse People. Our charter is to keep good materials, reused materials, reusable materials out of the landfill. And that's what this was about. We had 12 days of training. It was 3 days in the classroom, and this is the last day going on. We just finished today out in the field, and tomorrow will be the last classroom day. And they were just absolutely amazing. Some of them had experience in deconstruction, or I should say in construction, and some of them didn't. But everybody got a good grade. Everybody passed and got their certificates. We salvaged probably 4 to 6 tons of lumber. The house was built in 1947. And typically the lumber that comes out of a house of this age will get used into furniture or trim or put back into moldings. It probably will not be reused in any kind of a construction project. And the main reason is it's too pretty. It's got a real tight grain, and it looks much more attractive than the stuff you get down to Lowe's or Home Depot or the local lumber yard and buy. Now, if you look at this guy, which is what, 24 by 8 by 20 feet long. So also the longer it is, the more expensive it is.
Hey, the class was it was worth taking. I learned a lot about deconstructing the building, having to do with just taking materials apart, using tools, what it does for the environment, and also like codes having to do with it and just the proper way to do things.
And here you can see that they used redwood duff as insulation, and I've actually never seen that before, but I guess this was quite common back in the 40s, and that's what they had to work with, so that's what they used.
So I took this class because I saw it online, come through on my email through Nextdoor, and thought it would be a very interesting class to take. I'm in the field of interior design and organization and interested in construction, and thought this would be an interesting way to learn the opposite side of construction. And it was a very informative class. I learned a lot. I knew a lot, but I'd never been up on a roof before. I've never taken floors out and all the way down to the girders. And we had a wonderful teacher teaching us from the Reuse People of America, Ted. And I met some great people, had some great worker mates, and it was just a really great experience all the way around. So what was great about this class for sustainability was we were able to save a ton of material from 1947, old wood, sheathing, tubs, siding and paneling. And what was great is at the very end to load it all onto a truck and watch it drive down the street to go to a new home.
Does anybody have any questions about that?
I remember those 2x4s were actually 2x4s back in those old days.
Yeah, they're definitely not anymore, and they're not as strong now.
Not anymore.
And a lot more expensive too.
Is that a remodel?
No, that was a tear down. Lots of people build houses. I mean, they buy houses and then they want a bigger house. So instead of just adding on, they'll just tear the thing completely down. But most of the time what happens is a bulldozer comes in and crushes the house all up, and then it gets put into a dumpster and then taken and gets burned as biofuel or turned into mulch. So this way, these materials are taken and resold. And so this material went over to the Reuse People in Oakland. And then we have placemakers here in San Carlos. And so they take in donations, and they also do deconstructions. And so they sell a lot of the materials from their projects. And they have a lot of really high-end, old heritage pieces from like San Francisco and old growth lumber. And then they also have, you know, more everyday items that you can buy for your home. And you can do art projects, or you can remodel your home with it, and it'll look great. So as Ted said, a lot of the stuff won't be reused in deconstruction because it's just too pretty. I love that. So
Do you have a list of companies that do this sort of thing?
I do. Yeah, if you go to smcsustainability.org and then under waste reduction and construction and demolition, I've got a deconstruction, construction, and demolition guide. And funny, I have that right here. And it looks like this. And I have a list of companies in there that do deconstruction and also where you can go buy and donate building materials.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So now we're going to talk about recycling. And so it's a collection and processing of materials. And the recyclables are collected separately and sorted and baled and sent to manufacturers that turn them into new products. So as I was kind of mentioning before, you can have products that are technically recyclable, but if you don't have someone buying them and turning them into something else, then they're not really recyclable. And so some of the materials that are commonly recycled in San Mateo County and the collection bins curbside are paper, cans, glass bottles and jars, and aluminum and tin, plastics 1 and 2, bottle and food container shaped, and batteries, motor oil, and filters. Are there any questions about any of these?
The last two items don't go in the blue container, do they?
So typically, and it depends on if you're in an apartment or a single family home, but that like motor oil and filters will go next to the container, and batteries typically go in a Ziploc type bag on top of the garbage container. It might be different for which company you have, but that's typically how it's handled.
Now batteries, you mean like the AA batteries and 9-volt batteries and that kind of stuff?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
you don't mean a car battery. You're not talking about a car battery.
no, those are separate. Yeah.
Okay.
And with batteries, you want to be sure to tape the end, like the little round button cell batteries. You want to tape those because even though they're dead and don't make your appliance work, they still have a charge and they can start a fire. There's been many fires at transfer stations from those. And so you don't want them touching other batteries.
Call the airport for some information on my trip.
Where does the money, the deposit that we pay the stores for the bottles, you know, water bottles and soda and all that, where does that money go to? Because we can't go to the recycle center anymore, you know, with the bottles to get our money back. So where does that money go?
Oh, you can actually go and get your money back. What city do you live in?
Redwood City. San Carlos is closed.
Right, but there's several locations. So there's J&D Recycling in San Mateo on South Amplet, and then J&D has another location. We got a grant from the state to open 3 other pilot locations in Daly City at Southgate Shopping Center and in Half Moon Bay by CVS, and then in Redwood City, North Fair Oaks at the Quick Stop. So, and then in the North County, there's also Zark in South San Francisco and Blue Line Transfer Station in South San Francisco.
Do you
So
have
there are
the
locations.
Do you have the address of the Redwood City one?
Yes, I can look that up. Can I look that? Let's see.
To my knowledge, nothing has reopened.
Oh yeah, it's been open. The only thing, well, okay, so in 2019, a lot of the Replanet stores or the Replanet recycling centers in the parking lots of grocery stores closed. And so, and then Shoreway Environmental Center they still accept recyclables, but they don't give cash back for cans and bottles. And so they were having traffic problems just because so many of the Replanet places closed. And so they had to stop collecting it. But there are locations throughout San Mateo County. So actually it might be more helpful if you call after this, and I'll give you the phone number. Well, it's 888-442-2666. And we do also have the information on our website on smcsustainability.org under waste reduction and reduce, reuse, recycle. I have a whole web.
Can you put that on the chat, please? Can you put the phone number down in the chat?
Yes, if I can. Yes, let me do that at the end, please. Okay. I can't access the chat right now.
Okay.
Krista, you can send me the link and the phone number. I can send it to all the attendees.
Oh, that would be great. Okay.
Yeah,
I have a question about jar lids.
Yes.
We put them on the jar, or do we throw them away?
Oh no, you should. Well, if it's metal, you should separate it from the glass, because you know, glass goes to one facility and metal goes to another facility. So it's better to keep them separate. But if it's a plastic lid, I would keep that on the container, if it's a plastic container. But if it's I don't know if there's plastic lids going on glass, but I would separate that. And unfortunately, I would not recycle the lid, meaning to throw it away or reuse it for something fun.
Throw away plastic lids?
Yeah. But for like, if you do drink bottled water, you would leave those lids on top of the plastic bottle. Because if you keep that separate, then that's just going to fall through all the conveyor belts and the recycling system, and that actually get picked up and sent to the recycling facility.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I also heard that black plastic can't be recycled because they can't read the number on it.
No, there's a different reason, and I was going to talk about that in a little bit. But so black plastic is, so when a company is buying plastic to make into other products, black plastic will make the other product dark and either brown or black. And a lot of plastics don't want their products to be brown or black. And so they tend to like lighter products. It's just a coloring thing. So does it, and some transfer stations, the optical sorters don't actually pick up the black color and separate it out. So those are some of the reasons around black plastic, making it harder to recycle. And so some of the things that can't go in the curbside bin, but you can recycle, like at Shoreway Environmental Center in San Carlos, and most transfer stations takes these things like fluorescent lighting, bulbs and tubes, cell phones, cooking oil, sharps, scrap metal, mattresses, construction and demolition, used motor oil and filters, used antifreeze, car batteries, and paint. And there are charges for some of these, but not most. And the plastic film, that can't go in your curbside bin, but you can collect that. I mean, even though I use reusable grocery bags and produce bags, I still end up with the film around, you know, paper towels and toilet paper, and I don't get stuff that needs to be dry cleaned, thankfully, but the wrapping around water bottles and bubble wrap, and even those plastic envelopes that you might get Amazon stuff in. So those can all be saved and taken back to grocery stores like Safeway and Target. And so you'll see a bin right out front, and you can put the clean and dry plastic film in there. The only thing that you don't want to include is salad bags or frozen food bags. You want it to be stretchy, and it will usually have a number 4 on it, which is a low density polyethylene. And Trex Decking is the biggest buyer of the plastic film. And so they've actually found a way around the whole color issue. They've started so you can have like black bags and things in there. And so then they'll wrap a color around the interior product. So that's pretty good. And other odd things, there's this company, TerraCycle, and you can find them online. They take chip bags, candy and energy bar wrappers, cigarette butts, gloves and masks, water filters, and pens. And I think the cigarette butts are fascinating. So you can do a cleanup and like a beach cleanup and send them in for free. And they turn them into ashtrays and pallets. And see, they make a black plastic out of that. Some things cost and some things don't. And electronics, there's TVs and laptops, and anything that plugs in or has a battery is basically considered an electronic, and those should all be recycled and should not go into the landfill. And I already talked about black plastic, but polystyrene, or as you might know of, styrofoam, peanuts and blocks. Peanuts, a lot of UPS stores take them, or other packaging stores. Just check with your local store. The blocks are harder. Those can go to Zark in South San Francisco. Last I checked, it was like a few cents a pound. And in Green Citizen and Burlingame, they take them for $5 for a 30-gallon bag. And they also take VHS tapes and cassette tapes for a fee. And fabric. So fabric that isn't reusable, US Again has boxes all throughout the county, and you can go to usagain.com and find a bin, and they will recycle what can't be reused. Medications. Kaiser, police stations, some pharmacies, they will take back medications, so you don't put them in the landfill.
Yeah, let me ask you, this is the program and it's recording. I mean, at their end, it's Say what?
Oh, I think that might have not been a question. And then also sharps. You never want to put those in your garbage because that can hurt someone. And so there's many locations throughout the county as well to get rid of your sharps safely. Most transfer stations take them, and you can even mail them in. But if you go to smchealth.org and search for needles, you can find information there. And hazardous waste. You need to make an appointment through smchealth.org/HHW, but this is for paints, propane tanks, mercury cleaners, just about anything you have that shouldn't go in the garbage that is toxic. But like shampoos and things like that, those aren't considered hazardous. And just some of the benefits of recycling: it conserves natural resources, saves energy and water, and it helps to protect the environment by reducing air and water pollution, and reduces garbage that goes to the landfills, obviously. And you can save money on your garbage bill because you can reduce your garbage size. And I find this graphic pretty interesting because an aluminum can be made into an aluminum can within 60 days. And so, when you're making products, you got to cut down trees or take bauxite, mine it out of a mountain and then refine it down. But if you take an aluminum can and paper and just put it back in the system, then you don't need to take all those resources from the earth. And this is just an example of like how much energy is saved with paper, 60%, and glass, 50%, aluminum, 95%, plastic, 66%, and 60 to 74% for steel and tin. So that's a lot of energy savings. And this is just a picture of recyclables before they get shipped off to be made into new products. And if you buy recycled products, like for paper, you can save 17 trees, 380 gallons of oil, and lots of energy and lots of landfill space just by buying a case of recycled paper. And I'm running out of time, but this is one of my favorite things, the best way to, to support recycling, because you need to buy recycled products to support the recycling industry. And so you can buy like coats and fleeces, and a couple of my favorite things are my pig and my bear that are made out of recycled plastic bottles. But you can see here, like on the office chair, that's black. And so that uses black plastic. And toothbrushes, paper towels, toilet paper. So you want to look for the post-consumer content, and just about anything you have when you're looking for something, look for it to be recycled. And you look for post-consumer because that's us. That means we put it at the curb, and post-industrial means they're using scraps from the manufacturing process, which is normal. Do I have a few more minutes, or should I wrap it up?
You do, Krista.
Okay, great. And rot and compost is one of my favorite things to do at home. I don't know if any of you compost, but because organics in the landfill versus composting them, organics in the landfill, they release greenhouse gases in the form of methane, and it's anaerobic. It breaks down anaerobically, which means without oxygen. So that's where you get the methane. And methane is 21 times higher than carbon dioxide at its global warming potential. And landfills are one of the largest polluters of methane gas in the US. And when you compost, you use oxygen. So you break it down in a better way that doesn't create methane. And this just shows you a commercial composting facility. And so when the organics are collected at your home, if you do compost on curbside, they get taken to a facility like this and composted in 60 days. But if you compost at home, you can compost leaves, sawdust, straw, newspaper, my chicken bedding, and leaves, grass clippings, coffee grounds, fruit and vegetable trimmings, and herbivore manure. And you just want to have like 2 to 3 times as many browns or carbon as you do the greens, and layer it, keep it moist like a wrung out sponge. And if you turn it once a week, that's a really quick rundown of composting, but it's really easy and it's really fun. And I love turning my compost every week because you can really see the difference in it. And within a couple months, I have great compost to use in my garden. You just don't want to include, any dog or cat feces, dairy and meat, because they can attract rodents, and weeds. Actually, like all of my compost most of it is from weeds. And so, but I do get my pile hot. But if you are, I don't want to say lazy, but someone that doesn't want to turn your bin and just want to do cold pile composting, you need it to reach 131 for 3 days to kill the weed seeds and any infections. And we do have a workshop coming up this Saturday that you can sign up for. It's from 10 to 12:15 on Zoom. And we do give discounts for compost bins to encourage composting. And then we also give rebates of up to $200 if you want to get creative and build your own. And we have plans on our website. And we encourage composting at community gardens. So this is just a before picture and an after picture. And we have compost bins on display there so you can see them. And then they can compost the scraps from the garden and use the compost back in the garden. So thank you for helping to reduce materials going to the landfill. And here's our phone number and our website and our email, and you can call anytime. We have a hotline, and usually I'm the one that answers it, so I'd be happy to talk to you and take any questions. So yeah, and that's about it.
Thank you so much, Krista. This was very informative.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, the 17 acres of in the middle of the peninsula there that you're filling up, is that from the black container that we put out in the curb?
It is, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
One more question on jar lids. If it's plastic on glass, we take off the plastic and we don't recycle it, correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Krista.
Thank you. Lots of great questions. It was
Yes.
fun to interact with you.
Yeah.
One more question. You only want number 1 and number 2 plastics in the recycle bin. Is that correct too? I mean, the recyclables?
That's a hard one because, I mean, most companies do say they take 1 through 7, but right now, I just know of markets for 1s and 2s. 3 through 7s are hard to find a market for, so you can put them in there and they'll probably get separated out and probably won't get recycled. And they haven't really changed that in case a market does open it up. We don't want to start telling people to not recycle it, because if a market does open up, then we'll have to retrain everybody again to put it in the recycling bin. So it's a little bit tricky right now. Hopefully that more markets do open up for other types of plastics besides 1s and 2s.
Except if it's black, don't recycle it.
It depends on which city you live in. What city do you live in?
Redwood City?
Yeah, unfortunately, they don't recycle black plastic there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Krista.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.